very high on poverty. We have the biggest prison systems we build in our community in the Central Valley. That's where our larger prison complexes are. And so much is taken out of the educational system. So much has been taken out of the social services system. And so when she called and said, please come up and tell us your story, we were so thankful that we took that call and was able to even bring a product of what injustice has done. To have our brother Patch come up, our homeless man, and say, I was a person before I became homeless, and I'm still a person.
Yes.
But look how the system has tried to discard me as if I have no value. And his story has been so powerful, both in Fresno, here at the conference. So it let us know that it's not just women, but there's a voice for men.
Yes, yes. Oh, yes. You know, I call it the Courts of Women, Jean, just to explain that. Because, you know, when I started this in Asia, women are not seen as a threat to anything. So we were able to do a lot of work like this. Imagine one of the first courts we did was in Japan. And during the Second World War, I take 2 minutes to tell the story?
Go ahead.
In the Second World War, the Japanese were an invading army. Okay, so they kidnapped and raped and took all the young girls from the Philippines, Indonesia, Korea. We found comfort women in Manchuria. They call them the comfort women because they had to comfort the Japanese soldiers. Western recreation. Brought them to the military bases, kidnapped women, and kept them there right through the war. Raped and gang raped them. When the war ended and the Japanese were a retreating army, they didn't know what to do with these women. So many of them were made to dig their own graves, and they were shot in and buried. Some were buried alive. The lucky ones, we are told, and these are all eyewitness accounts, were put onto buses and trains and sent to unknown destinations. Now in Asia, a raped woman is better dead. You cannot return to your family, you cannot return to your community, you cannot return to your country. So most of the comfort women, Jennifer, horrifying as it is, lived hidden for 50 years. After the Second World War, the world spoke of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. The world spoke of Hitler and his concentration camps. But the world never spoke of the comfort women of Asia. In 1990, I'm sitting in the Philippines and we start to get these little bits of information. There was something called the Comfort Women of Asia. And slowly we started to learn that there were 300,000 women put into these comfort stations. So my colleagues in the Philippines went on the radio, I think they went on the television or radio, whatever, and said to them, Lola, Lola means grandmother, Lolas, you are there. We want to talk to you, we want to meet you, we are here. And I was there when Rosa Henson was the first Lola, first grandmother that came. And her first words to three of us, there were just three of us in the room, and she said, why did you wait so long to find us? One after the other, Jennifer, the stories that we heard. Then we said, let us do this Court of Women in Japan. That's why I understand why we call it the Court of Women. Court of Women, nobody stopped us. We got it in our partner organizations, got it in the University of Tokyo. And this huge university, 2,000 people. I was on the jury that day. And one comfort woman after the other spoke. Now, mind you, they were all over 70, you know. And it was too much. You could not hear anybody move. Nobody moved from 9 to 7 in the evening. And of course, everybody was taken aback because you can't do this. It's in the heart of Japan, and you're telling them what has happened. And so our demands at that time was that the Japanese government should own that crime, that they should apologize to the women, and that they should compensate and give reparation. We didn't know anything better than that. We didn't know any other new systems of justice or whatever. So, to cut this long story short, we took all these testimonies, and then we started to have courts all over Asia, took the testimonies of the women. So it was not a research paper, it was not a book, it was not something, it was the voices of the women. And we put this into the UN Commission on Human Rights. I remember the first time the Japanese government, they kept walking out, but we started to do a lot of lobbying and demonstrations at embassies all over Asia. It was wonderful because all the women's groups in Asia came together on that. Not all, but as many as we could.
Yes.
And then they finally apologized in some way, and they said there were not 300,000, there were 200,000. And then they
One
set up
is too
some
many.
kind of Asian Women's Fund, which fund doesn't work anymore. But some women took that benefit of it, but it split the movement. I mean, that was the not so nice part of the whole thing, because some women's groups felt, no, we should not give in. What Japan had done was very, very little, and it should be much more. And so this was, but this is why the courts of women. But at the courts of women, we have men on the jury. Sometimes they come as analytical voices. Sometimes they bring testimony, as we did over here.
And we had men in this one. I
And
was
in the
pleased that
audience always.
we
So we just
interacted
call
our
it the
men.
courts of women because it allows us that space.
I see.
You know, in the Arab world, I would never have been able to do it if I said the court of the people or something. No,
Yes.
but the court of the women is, you know, something that sounds very passive and not so subversive, and certainly not disobedient and
Right.
disruptive. All of which we are.
Well, I know when we talked about bringing Patch, they jokingly said, "Oh, but you're going to. When did you become a woman, Patch?" And he didn't think it was too funny, but he said, "Look, if they want me to tell my story and I'm the only one there, I will." And I'm so pleased that he was so bold to do that, because he came and saw that there were other men who played a major significant role. And this is wonderful. This vision, this dream of yours.
And now the dream of all of us.
And now it's a dream of yours, because now this roots has now taken its form and is now growing. And you know, sometimes you have those plants that begin to twist around other plants, like vines. When a vine grows, it just grabs others and it just grows up. I think this is a vine, and it's pulling us all in as we all grow together in this movement. And thank you for having that vision.
Thank you, Jean, and thank you, Jennifer.
Well,
Now you want the poem?
I want to hear the poem. I think that's a good.
Why the poem is
Yes.
because I felt in the room last night there was so much of unconditional love. And then I thought, okay, we've been listening to different kinds of spiritualities, and here is something from Hafiz, who's a Sufi poet of the 12th century. Anyway, let me say that for him. So I say it for both of you now, okay? Both of you, and for all the people that you give your unconditional love to. So translated, it says, it's called For No Reason At All. For no reason at all, I begin to dance like a child. For no reason at all, I begin to skip like a child. For no reason at all, I become a leaf, and the wind, it carries me high, so high that I can touch the sun, kiss the sun. For no reason at all, I begin to dance like a child. For no reason at all, I make of my head a conference table. The songbirds, 1,000 songbirds make of my head a conference table and pass along their songbooks with cups of wine. Maybe cups of tea, but also wine. For no reason at all, I begin to dance like a child. But for every reason in the world, for every reason in existence, I love eternally and unconditionally. Thank you, Hafiz, and thank you, Jennifer and Jean.
Thank you very much, my sister. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Great.